40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
Welcome to the special stage rally show this season in association with the Mini Rally Challenge. Once again, on the first Friday of every month, we're going to be packing a highlight show full of action from the grassroots of our sport right up to the very top of UK rallying. We can't wait to be stage side bringing you the action, and there's now a new place online to go for all of your rally TV. Specialstage.tv is where you need to go for all of our live and archived content. There's loads to go out on there, and we've got some really special features coming up this season as well. Plenty to look forward to. But speaking of which, here's what you've got to look forward to in this first episode. The MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship got back underway, as is now traditional, with its opening round at Alton Park. The Salford, Van Hire, Neil Howard stages. And once again, we'd see a good mix of returning faces and new names joining an all-star cast for this opening round of the championship. 8 varied stages lay ahead of the crews, including gravel, asphalt, and also that water splash. Fastest out of the blocks will be Mark Kelly and Richard Scarborough, this being Richard's second time sitting in with Mark, the last time resulting in victory. So they'll be looking to keep that 100% record together. Michael Argo and Will Atkins end the morning's first 2 stages in second place. They were a handful of seconds back from the lead, but that didn't matter for now as far as the championship was concerned. Kelly not registered for points this season. Reigning champions, and it only feels like they were crowned 5 minutes ago, doesn't it? John Griffiths and Emma Morrison return to put in a defence of that championship title. And with third place at this stage, it was a strong start. A 10-second penalty, the difference between the lead of the championship crews and where they are now. For Stephen Simpson and Chris Williams, it would be just another 2 seconds back, all very close after the opening 2 stages of action this morning. For Kyron Hankin and James Swallow, it would be 5th place, 16 seconds back from Simpson in the Fiesta up ahead. And Jason and Lee Wilson joined the championship for this season, looking to take the fight to the 4-wheel drive cars in the Darien. Hardly Darien weather, but despite this, they make a strong start with the Class D lead from 6th place overall. For Paul Murrow and Callum Cross, it will be 7th. They could have been a place higher had it not been for a stall on the second stage. They spin it out on the rally school section of the stage as well, almost styling it out with a donut. We know what you were doing. The car, unfortunately, cutting out, costing them a handful of seconds to get going again and, well, cancelling out that style. Previous and multiple rally winner here, Graham Coffey, this time with fellow driver John Cope alongside, was out once again in the Fiesta S2000 Turbo, a young person's car as he calls it. But they were still going well nevertheless, without that comfort blanket of an S12B, lying in 8th place overall. Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner return in the Skoda again this season. And the times were looking good, 3 seconds back from Coffey at this stage in 9th overall. And rounding out the top 10 at this stage were Rob Hughes and Sean Cunniff. They were having a bit of a problem with the brake pressure on the car, not having a good feeling at all. It was lower as well on the leaderboard than we would have expected them to be at this stage. So with the morning's first 2 stages complete here at Alton Park and the weather well and truly drawing in, the results at the top are starting to shape up like this on the leaderboard. Through the next couple of stages then, and we wouldn't see any change in the lead of the rally. Mark Kelly and Richard Scarborough continuing to dominate. In fact, increasing their advantage by a few more seconds now as well. Michael Igo and Will Atkins knew that they needed to keep it going without any problems to take the championship victory. A win overall would be nice, but the championship points were the main goal for this weekend. to get that championship campaign well and truly lit. They remain second place, leading our championship cruise for now. The first change, in fact, on the leaderboard will be in third place. Stephen Simpson and Chris Williams moving up to take that final step on the podium, going into the second half of the rally and clearly pushing the car hard on these stages. That, of course, means that for our reigning champs, John Griffiths and Emma Morrison, they're down a position. But just like at the top of the leaderboard, Simpson wasn't registered for the points, so as far as the championship was concerned, they were still in second place for the points. No change to fifth for Kyron Hankin and James Swallow. They keep hold of that position in the Peugeot and would have a bit of a gap as well to the crews ahead, meaning it was a big ask to change things around for the afternoon, but it was clear they were on for a big push. This opening round at Alton Park then reaches the midway point. Here's a quick look over those results after stage 4 here at the Salford Van Hire Neil Howard stages. On to our top 10 overall leaderboard then. There actually wouldn't be a 10th place finisher. David Burns and Steve Hallmark would actually be tied on times with another crew, meaning they share 9th place. And the other crew? Well, it would be the Skoda pair of Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner. Consistent pace throughout the day had got them to this point on the overall results. A strong finish here at the opening round. No change for Graham Coffey and John Cope. They managed to get that Fiesta back home with an 8th place finish, only 4 seconds off 7th. And no doubt feeling very accomplished inside that little Darien, Jason and Lee Wilson, despite swapping times and positions a number of times throughout the day, end the rally with 7th. A very impressive finish, especially given the day-long wet conditions that they faced. For Paul Murrow and Callum Cross, it would be 6th. The rally hadn't exactly been completely straightforward for them, but they'd had a good run overall to take a strong finish on the opening round. For Kyron Hankin and James Swallow in the Peugeot 208 T16, it would be 5th place overall. The good news for them, however, is that there were 2 crews above them not registered for championship points, so as far as that goes, it would be a podium finish to open up their championship campaign for 2023-24. The same good fortune for John Griffiths and Emma Morrison as well. Or was it good management? Unable to add victory number 1 to the score sheets just yet, but 2nd place was a strong way to open up that defence of their title for this season. But all of that means that taking maximum points away from the opening round towards their championship account will be Michael Igoe and Will Atkins. They'd had a mixed season last year, it was fair to say, but the pace had always very clearly been there, and with the new season getting off to the best possible start, they would be our first winners and indeed lead the championship going to round 2 at Cadwell Park. With those maximum points dished out then, it will be back to the overall rally results and our non-championship crews. And for Stephen Simpson and Chris Williams, it will be a good end to the rally. They gain a position in the final stages to take a hard-fought 2nd place overall this weekend. But taking a victory that never really looked in doubt, did it, will be Mark Kelly and Richard Scarborough. A very, very good end to the rally for the pair. A victory of just over a minute by the finish. So at the end of a slippery, varied and pretty challenging opening round, winter rallying is underway in the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship. The results at the top shaped up like this. Round 2 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship would head for the first of 2 visits to the Lincolnshire Wolds and a glorious Cadwell Park, but I would say that. There will be a new name at the top of the leaderboard from the start, as well as Rallycross star Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton take an early lead of 9 seconds after the 2nd stage. Paul Murrow and Craig Simkiss come out fighting, making one of their best starts to date. They slot into 2nd place, putting in some strong times, not getting caught out by these slippery conditions either, which is crucial here at Cadwell at this time of year. Maximum point scorers last time out, Michael Igoe and Will Atkins will be 3rd at this stage, 7 seconds back from Murrow for now. And Ollie O'Donovan and Ashley Morris will be pushing a little too hard in the early stages, getting caught out on the slippery stage, going the wrong way through Barn and getting up onto two wheels over that tyre on the exit. Luckily, they get away with it, continuing in fourth place overall with a bit of bodywork damage to show for their troubles. One notable name missing from the leaderboard at this stage is Mark Kelly. Paul Morris alongside for this round. They hit a bail on the morning's stage, having to call it a day on the very first few miles of the rally. They'd get back out a few stages in the afternoon to get some miles in the car and get some seat time and put in some good times to show perhaps what could have been. Reigning champions John Griffiths and Emma Morrison will be happy with their times. They were only a single second off O'Donovan ahead and only a single second behind Igo, so it was all still pretty close after the opening stages. You just couldn't make any mistakes in these circumstances. John Stone and Laura Connell make a return to the stages together this weekend, not out for any championship points, so it was just a weekend of getting back into the car after their recent accident, enjoying themselves and getting that confidence back. And in seventh place, it will be the Skoda of Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner, a further 3 seconds back from Stone up ahead and brimming with confidence after a strong performance at the first round. Jason and Lee Wilson, another pair to have a strong showing first time out at Alton Park. They were looking for another good run in the class, and overall, they end the morning just 38 seconds off the leaders overall and leading Class D. Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones make a strong start in their class as well, leading Class C and inside the top 10 in 9th overall. A much better start too than the problems that they'd seen early on at the previous round. And rounding out the top 10 at this stage is Steve Hill. Matt Daniels in the Fiesta alongside, 9 seconds back from Hodgson up ahead. So with the morning stages complete, the leaderboard is starting to shape up like this at Cadwell Park. Over the next couple of stages, there'd be plenty of change in the top of our results, but not for rally leaders Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton. They continue to lead the way with a 23-second lead now. John Griffiths and Emma Morrison would gain a good amount of time, hauling themselves into second place. A good morning setting them up nicely going into these afternoon stages for a big push. And for Paul Murrow and Craig Simkis, it would now be third place. Only 3 seconds in it, so it could be anyone's by the end of the day. You certainly wouldn't be calling it just yet. Michael Igo and Will Atkins would slip down to fourth now. They'd originally dropped to fifth and were climbing back up the order. And for John Stone and Laura Connell, it would be fifth. They were climbing up the order the right way, place by place. Confidence growing in the car, and that position was pretty strong for their first time back. Some of that reshuffle in the leaderboard, down to the loss of Ollie O'Donovan and Ashley Morris. After their earlier off, the bodywork had caught fire, causing a pretty dramatic stage end. Luckily, thanks to fellow competitors and Ashley's quick thinking, the fire was put out, minimal damage, and the car will fight again at the next round. On we go then to the afternoon stages and a look at how the final results were decided. And in 10th place overall by the finish, it would be the Chevette of Alistair Stables and Neil Jones. Another strong performance, the pair also taking third in Class C with that result. For Stephen Sawley and Rob Johnson, it would be second in the class, as well as 9th on the overall leaderboard in the Escort. And it will be another good weekend for Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. They take the Class C victory, 8th place on our overall leaderboard. Steve Hill and Matt Daniels will be climbing the order through the afternoon, going the right way about it as well, ending the rally 7th place overall. And for the Legend Fires team of John Stone and Laura Connell, they'd be back down to 6th place. A successful weekend though, all in all, a good result being back out in the car together after their accident earlier in the year. Back to Class D then at this point in the leaderboard, and our winners in that class, Jason and Lee Wilson. Another good run in the Darien to take class victory by a good margin, as well as taking 5th place overall. These big finishes getting all the more common for this amazing Darien pair. Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner have a good run to 4th. A strong result for the pair, some good points towards that championship campaign as well. Paul Moreau and Craig Simkis simply weren't able to get back into that second place they'd held nearer the start, but they do get a podium under their belts. A good weekend for the pair when all's said and done. We were missing a notable crew from the top of our results as the cars came into the finish though. Michael Igoe and Will Atkins suffer a double puncture, ruining any chance of a good result this weekend and adding to that maximum score from round one. The pair having to come in early from the stage and call it a day. For John Griffiths and Emma Morrison then, a welcomed second place towards that championship defence. Some more good points on the board, looking good so far this season, 2 rounds in the Fiesta R5. But it's a new face in the championship and a new winner at the top of the leaderboard this weekend. Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton may be new to the championship, but they are already making their mark and looking pretty ominous with it. Patrick wouldn't be at the following round though at Donington, but he would be back after that to see if this good result can lead to others throughout the season. We've got a feeling that there might be a battle to be had. An interesting narrative then here at our first visit to the Lincolnshire Wolds. At the end of the Cadwell Park North Humberside rally, the results look like this. Round 3 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship would mark the last event of 2023 before the Christmas break, and winter had certainly made its presence known here in the Midlands, with the crews waking up to some pretty treacherous conditions. Perhaps mostly as a result of the conditions, the leaderboard would make for some interesting viewing early doors. For Michael Igoe and Will Atkins, they'd reached the end of stage 3 with the lead of the rally, but it hadn't been that way from the start. A new car this weekend and a mix of that and some pretty interesting conditions out there on the stages had seen them down as far as 13th place overall on the first stage before climbing their way back up the leaderboard. Igoe had been going backwards as much as he'd been going forwards. A number of spins in the icy conditions not helping his times, including this one seen on board with John Griffiths and Emma Morrison. This short piece of onboard really showing how tricky the conditions were out there for the crews on the opening stage here at Donington Park. Saying that, it didn't seem to be a problem for Mark Jasper and Don Wyatt. They reached the end of the morning in second place. They'd been in the lead after the opening stage. The 80s back on top once more. The 6R4 clearly coping well with the conditions and showing that it still has what it takes. The car and the crew, of course. We saw their spin a minute ago, but apart from the car swapping ends from time to time, things were going well for John Griffiths and Emma Morrison. They'd been in second place, but that charge from Igoe had pushed them and the Metro down a position, both of them. They were third place for now, only 5 seconds off the lead. They come here, though, leading the championship, and it was all eyes on that 3 rounds in. For Ollie O'Donovan and Jack Morton, it would be 4th place. They'd been in 3rd, but were another crew dropping a position in the later morning stages. They were going well, though, only further 4 seconds back. David Welch and Andrew Smith make a strong start to the rally with 5th place in the Subaru. Their last event was on the gravel of the Moulton stages, so all of this gravel on the infield should be a little familiar to them at least. One crew really struggling with the conditions, and here struggling to stop on the gravel would be Paul Moreau and Callum Cross, almost running into the back of Ollie O'Donovan. Thankfully, no contact was made, and that wouldn't be another rearranged rear end to that Hyundai after their incident at Cadwell Park. Moreau and Cross end the morning 6th place overall. For Philip House and Nick Beaumont, it will be the lead in Class D. A good start for the Escort pair. They lead the way in the 2-wheel drive crews at this stage from 7th place overall. And that lead in the 2-wheel drive crews would be over Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. 27 seconds back overall, but they were in a different class, of course. So the Class C lead will be theirs for now too. For Paul Morgan and Sam Stafford, it will be 2nd place in that class behind Hodgson. Going well, hovering around their 9th place for the whole morning. Now just a single second back from the Escort pair. And rounding out the top 10 were Alistair Stables and Neil Jones in the Chevette. Themselves only 4 seconds back in the class as well at this stage. So with 3 of the day's 6 long and treacherous stages complete, The leaderboard at the top of the north side truck and van Donington stages was starting to shape up like this. We head back out into the afternoon then. Rain had made that ice even more treacherous in places. We see James Garner and Jordan Joins taking that 10th spot in third in the class. Second in the class runners will be Paul Morgan and Sam Stafford. The Civic pair taking 9th place on the overall results as well. An impressive performance in difficult conditions. For Alistair Stables and Neil Jones, as exciting as ever to watch, it would be the ideal way to end the rally. They take a Class C victory, as well as moving up the overall standings to an 8th place finish. Alistair's aim of winning the championship for Class C going well so far. It would be a class victory as well for MSV instructors Philip House and Nick Beaumont. No excuses, lads, and they didn't need them either. They take the Class D win this weekend in the Escort. Mark Jasper and Don Wyatt, meanwhile, weren't able to get back to the top of the results in that 80s Group B Metro 6L4. The conditions just getting the better of them. Perhaps it was those cars around them as well. The playing field not levelled as much as it has been first thing. But they do make it as far as 6th place overall, 2nd in the class. And let's face it, they won on style points. Paul Murrow and Callum Cross gain a position through the afternoon stages, ending the rally 5th place overall. Not too far off that crew up ahead either. And that crew would be the Subaru of David Welch and Andrew Smith. Despite clouting one of the chicanes early on, they keep things in the top of the order, taking a 4th place finish by the end of the day. The podium crews this weekend had opened up a good advantage in those positions, unlikely to have been caught on merit, with a 2-minute gap by the finish to 3rd place. And in that position will be John Griffiths and Emma Morrison, our championship leaders, of course, and looking to defend last year's title. Some good points to add to that season tally before the short Christmas break. For Irishman Ollie O'Donovan, Jack Morton alongside for this weekend, it will be 2nd place. A sensible drive from the pair, which was a little bit out of the ordinary, considering Ollie's usual sideways style, but then there was a lot of experience sat beside him. But giving the new car its maiden victory will be Michael Igoe and Will Atkins. They put in another strong performance to give them another maximum points finish in the championship. Not only maximum points though, but the overall rally win as well. So the 3rd round of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship comes to a close. Here's a look back at how those overall results were decided at a treacherous Donington Park. The MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship was back for round 4, and on the appropriately titled MGJ Engineering Brands Hatch Winter Stages. An appropriately titled rally. It really was cold at Brands Hatch, and those stages would start out pretty icy. But unlike the previous round, where Michael Igoe and Will Atkins went for a high-speed spin down the main straight, remember that? This time they kept things going nice and smooth in the right direction to open up a 17-second lead after 2 stages. Big expectations after their fantastic debut. 2nd place at this stage will be Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton. Missing the previous round due to other commitments, they were back to see if they could repeat victory from Cadwell Park round 2. So far, they'd be in a chasing position, but were keeping themselves in the fight and entertained. Reigning champions and coming here, champions-elect John Griffiths and Emma Morrison will be a further 5 seconds back at this stage in 3rd. They were finding the conditions here at Brands Hatch tricky on the first stage of the day, but luckily any small moments were at pretty low speed, so they stayed safe and kept it in one piece. It was a fast start though for Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner. They end the morning's first stages in 4th place on the overall leaderboard. The times were looking very promising as well, just a further 5 seconds back from our reigning champions up ahead. For Sean and Colin Quigley, it will be 5th place. They were close to the Skoda up ahead as well, just 1 second separating them as they reached the end of the first loop of stages. Richard Weaver and Dylan Thomas make a great start to lie in 6th place for now. The Fiesta pair last sat together on this event the previous year, where they finished 6th. So today was looking like it could at least be a repeat of that. And it was great to see Joshua and Tamsin Davey back out in the trusty Darien, although they might not be thinking that themselves inside the car with these conditions. They do manage, though, pretty well, ending stage 2 with 7th overall, and of course with that position leading Class D quite emphatically. Ollie O'Donovan and Ashley Morris, the second of our Rallycross stars, weren't exactly where they wanted to be this morning. Not having the best of days, but at least they were still in the fight, even if they were a bit further down the order in 8th place for now. And first place in our Class C runners this weekend at this stage will be Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. Having a good, clean run, that characteristic smile back on Martin's face now he was back in his rally car, taking a bit of an advantage in that position as well from 9th place on the overall leaderboard. And rounding out the top 10 were Darryl Taylor and Steve McNulty, just 4 seconds back from Hodgson on the overall times at this stage. Let's take a look, as we always do, at some of the class positions at this stage. And with Martin Hodgson out in the lead of Class C, it will be up to James Garner and Jordan Joynes to lead the rest away, taking 2nd place in the class at this stage in the event. 3rd in the class will belong to Richard Weatherly and Sean Leyland. They'd have been in 2nd place as far as the times were concerned, but a 10-second penalty would push them down the order. In Class D, with the Davies Darien out in the lead, it would be Sam and Jack Cox, who were 2nd place in the class after stage 2. An impressive performance, just 18 seconds behind the class leaders. And keeping things nice and exciting, just a single second back from them would be James and Josh Slaughter. 3rd place in Class D for the Escort pair at this stage. In Class E, it was that fantastic Fiesta Super 1600 of Ashley Davies and Sam Forden. They'd had a 20-second lead in the class at this early stage. 2nd in the class behind that wide-arch Fiesta will be the Lotus pair of Joseph and Daniel Duffy. This car now becoming synonymous with this series. They started out a little slower than they'd wanted and than perhaps we'd expected on the opening stage, but were gaining time and momentum as they came out for stage 2. And 3rd in the class would be Callum Francis and James Francis Beck. Close on the times as well, just 3 seconds the gap to 2nd place. In Class B, it was the entertaining Evo of Wayne Larbalestia and Roland Francis leading the way. 9 seconds the advantage at the top of the class after 2 stages this morning. 2nd place in the class behind them would be the Impreza pair of Stephen Johansson and Chris Cooper, although they actually had been fastest over the first stage of the day. And 3rd, it was a great performance from Sam Gendy and Samantha Bartlett, a little further back with 58 seconds to catch up on the crews ahead for now. And in Class F, it will be the hard-charging Nova of Anthony and Christopher Newton, who open up a 10-second lead by the end of the 2 morning stages here at a very chilly Brands Hatch. Oliver and Simon Howard in the Micra will be the closest to that class lead, just 10 seconds back from the top of the class leaderboard at this stage. And for Jonathan Bray and Gary White in the MG, it will be 3rd place. A little further back with 49 seconds to find going into the next pair of stages if they wanted to change proceedings. So with the morning stages complete, the leaderboard at the top here on the MGJ Engineering Brands Hatch winter stages was shaping up something like this. Over the next few stages, things had warmed up just a tad. No ice on those stages anymore. Plenty of battles through the leaderboard, though. There wouldn't be any change, though, in the lead. Michael Igo and Will Atkins continue to set the pace, now with a 38-second advantage. And with the ice completely gone across the stage, it was the first chance for the pair to really push that new Citroën properly. There'd be a change in 2nd place now, though, with John Griffiths and Emma Morrison taking that spot in that orange Fiesta. But with just 2 stages to go and that big gap ahead, it was probably where they'd be ending up staying unless anything happened up ahead. Partly that reason for the move into second would be the loss of Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton. They'd been going well, but they clipped a chicane, getting themselves a big penalty in the process, slipping right down the order and just really treating the rest of the day as a bit of seat time and, as Patrick put it himself, very sportingly, a bit of fun. So third place now was Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner. Still going well, putting in the times as well to take a podium position, even with a 10-second penalty on the books themselves. So with those changes at the top of our leaderboard, and before we take a look at the class and final results at the end of the rally here today, this is how the overall standings are looking going into the final stages with those spot lamps bolted on here in Kent. On to the final stages then of the Brands Hatch Winter Stages, sponsored by MGJ Engineering. And a look at Class F first. And third place in the class would be the Christmas Mini. Duncan and Laura Christmas enjoying themselves and getting that little car round to the end of the event with a podium in the class to show for it. Just ahead of them in the class will be Jonathan Bray and Gary White. A strong performance. They take second place at the finish in that MG. But taking the class victory and showing that dominance that we've come to expect from them when everything comes together, Anthony and Christopher Newton. A good advantage by the finish as well would see them take a comfortable victory in the class. On to Class E, and it will be third place for Vince Bristow and Tim Sayer in the oldest car on the entry, that 1969 Mark I Escort Mexico. A great end to the event, only 20 seconds back in that position as well. Ahead of them at the finish will be somewhat of a specialist here at Brands Hatch, Paul Sheard and Colin Stevens. A good run in the MX-5, rewarding them with a second-in-class finish here at round 4. But taking victory will be Joseph and Daniel Duffy. Those Mad Max lights still on the roof of the Lotus. They were getting that position very emphatically after the loss of Ashley Davies and Sam Fordham in the Super 1600 Fiesta when they went out with mechanical problems. In Class B, there'd only be 2 crews remaining by the finish. Such had been the attrition rate here at Brands Hatch at round 4. So it would be second place in the class for Sam Gendy and Samantha Bartlett in the newer Evo. And for Wayne Lavalestia and Roland Francis in the older example, and just channeling those works colours here at Brands, it would be the class victory. A good finish to a day of entertaining the crowds and of course themselves here at Brands Hatch, even if at times they didn't feel like they were going that fast. In Class C, it will be a third place finish for Nigel and Catherine Brain in the MX-5. The gaps at the top of the class had opened up a little by the end of the rally, it was fair to say. Before we go further down Class C, here's a look at Class D. Third place there was Alistair Hutchinson and John Dykes, pedalling that Clio well this weekend to take that position, as well as finishing just outside the top 10 overall in 11th place. So that does mean we're on to the all-important top 10 leaderboard, and in that 10th position will be Tim Mewitt and Liz Jordan. They very happily end the event, and very deservingly too, in second place in Class D this weekend. Back to Class C, it will be second in the class for Richard Weatherly and Sean Leyland, ending the rally with 9th place overall as well in the Fiesta. And taking victory in Class C after leading for the entire day will be Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. A strong end to the rally, a bit of a mixed season so far, but that smile never far from their faces. Despite the spin and a few slides around the rally school section of the stage, though, it would be a good finish for Joshua and Tamsin Davey, who take the Class D victory as well as 7th place overall back in that Darien. Richard Weaver and Dylan Thomas repeat the same result that they'd taken in 2023 on this event, finishing with 6th place on the overall leaderboard. An impressive performance, particularly as they've been driving it like a Mark II Escort all day. Sean and Colin Quigley have a good afternoon, keeping things nice, neat and tidy. Pretty fast as well to take 5th place this weekend. The pair crashed out of the MGJ Engineering Brands Hatch Winter Stages last year, so a finish here was welcome. 5th place, a bonus. Frustratingly for Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner, after that brilliant performance, they were unable to hold on to their podium position going into the final stages of the rally. They slipped down slightly to take 4th place by the end of the day, missing out by just 6 seconds. but get this, completing the fourth of 4 manufacturers in the top 4 of the rally. Pretty impressive. So that means that it was 3rd place by the finish for Ollie O'Donovan and Ashley Morris. Not their best days rallying, but brilliant. Damage limitation. They managed to come away with that final step of the podium and a good haul of points to boot. No change at the top of our results, though, in this last part of the day. John Griffiths and Emma Morrison keeping hold of that 2nd spot. The gap by the finish of the rally, 41 seconds. That result does mean that they keep their advantage at the top of the standings after round 4. And of course, that means it would be another victory for Michael Igoe and Will Atkins. But with a problematic round 2, it means that they were still chasing down that championship lead for now, closing the gap to just 5 points with 5 rounds remaining. And we should point out that Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton were the first to congratulate our winning crews at the finish. So with the first round of the new year complete here in the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship, as we move into the second half of the winter rally season, the results from round 4 looked like this. Round 5 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship would take place at Snetterton and the Anglia Motorsport Club-run Snetterton Stage Rally. A bit of a change of format for this year's event would see the crews taking on 6 stages instead of 8, but those stages had been extended to give more miles out there on the stage. And leading the way after the first half of the day would be current championship leaders John Griffiths and Emma Morrison. 3 seconds the advantage by the end of as many stages. Our reigning champions in that orange Fiesta R5 hadn't been in the lead for long though. That belonged to Michael Igoe and Will Atkins, who led the rally from the start. It was only on stage 3 that the pair dropped down into 2nd place. They were still only a couple of seconds apart though. It was going to be a close fight going into the afternoon very clearly. One person missing from that battle as things stood would be Patrick O'Donovan, with Jack Morton alongside. They'd unfortunately pick up another penalty for hitting a chicane in the early stages, dropping them right down the order, having to play catch-up for the rest of the day. 3rd place, though, at this stage would be a returning Chris West and Steve Cox in that glorious-sounding wide-arched Peugeot 306 Maxi. After not competing in the championship for a while, don't forget, Chris is a former champion here in the Circuit Rally Championship. They were back. Not registered, as this wasn't a full campaign just yet. But great to see them back out and mixing with the top of the results once again. Paul Moreau and Jonathan Kennedy make a good start to this round with a 4th place by the middle of the day. They were just breathing down the neck of the Peugeot pair as well, just 7 seconds the difference for the pair. The times were also looking good for Tony Robinson and Paul Spooner. The pace had come on well so far this season in that Skoda, and the times were still within a minute of our overall rally leaders at this stage as well. 2nd of the O'Donovans now, and it will be 6th place overall for Ollie O'Donovan with Ashley Morris alongside. They had been higher on the order, up in 4th place for a while, but they slipped down the results slightly, now just 1 second back from that Skoda up ahead. This weekend in Norfolk will be the first time out at the wheel in the Rally 2 car for Sam and Francis Touzle over from Jersey to compete this weekend, just using the event to get used to the car and see how their pace measures up to the championship regulars. Things were going well for now, 7th place overall and plenty of support over there in Jersey. A little behind the Touzles and leading the way in Class B will be the Mitsubishi pairing of Steve Hill and Matthew Daniels. Some experience inside this car, and they'd have a good lead as well of almost a minute in that class. 2nd place in Class C, a little way behind the flying Peugeot of Chris West up ahead, with James Garner and Jordan Joins lying inside the top 10 overall with 9th. And rounding out that top 10 now will be Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. They also like just a position back in Class C as well, 14 seconds behind that Darien up ahead. The ever-entertaining Wayne and Darren Labalestier will be ending the morning 2nd in Class B. They'd be lying just a little outside the top 10 as well in 12th place. And behind them in the class and overall will be Sam Gendy and Samantha Bartlett. Sadly for them, losing a bit of time on stage 3, dropping them down to 18th overall. Speaking of which, it was great to see such a variety of Evos out on the event as well. And you know what? I couldn't miss the opportunity to line them all up between the stages for a photo shoot, much to the bemusement of the watching service area. In Class D, it will be the lead for Alex Stubbs and Rhys Edwards. Even with a 10-second penalty, they were knocking on the door of a top 10 finish with 11th place for now. And second in that class will be Nigel Greensall and David Hudson. They were a little further back in 15th, but the GT86 pair were working their way up these results. For Scott Rayner and Lee Dyke, it will be third place in the class, just 3 seconds between them and the Toyota pair up ahead. So it will be all to play for in the afternoon stages. In Class E, it was the lead for Paul Sheard and Colin Stevens. The MX-5 pair with a good overall position of 14th as well after 3 stages. Joseph and Daniel Duffy in that distinctive-looking Lotus Elise, bringing it home, of course, to Norfolk, will be going well as well in 20th place on the overall leaderboard, second in the class. And third in Class E for now will be Daniel Wright and Mark Annison, taking the Fiesta to 31st on the overall results at this stage. In Class F, we'd see Jonathan and William Bray taking the early lead in the class in their MG. They'd lose a little time on stage 3 overall, but it didn't affect the class for them, thankfully. Second in that class, though, Tommaso Porter and Paul Topping. The micro pair going well, lying in 37th place overall and enjoying every minute out there on these Snetterton stages. And it would be a little way back to third place in the class. Robert Barnett and Andrew Napier, the Citroën C1 crew, in 46th place overall for now. Our crew's then loving the longer stage layouts here at the Snetterton Stages Rally. The morning is complete and the leaderboard at the top is shaping up like this. On to the afternoon stages then, and the weather had for once been kind to us, hadn't it, here in the Circuit Rally Championship. A look at how the classes were decided. And there wouldn't be much change from the morning for most. Robert Barnett and Andrew Napier rounding out the podium positions in Class F. No change either for Tommaso Porter and Paul Topping. They keep a good pace through to the end of the rally with second in Class F, 36th overall. But taking victory in the class will be Jonathan and William Bray, holding on to that lead by the end of the event and taking that MG to 28th on the overall results as well. In Class E, there'd be some change as well. We lose Paul Sheard from the class fight, meaning that it would be a third place finish for Nigel and Tia Booley in that class, as well as 35th overall. That also means some changes in the rest of our results, with Daniel Wright and Mark Annison gaining a position to end the rally with second in Class E this weekend. But for Joseph and Daniel Duffy, it will be the class victory. Not the way they would have wanted to take the win, but they were there to pick up the pieces and put a good drive in to take victory. In Class D, there's a change in third place, no longer seeing Scott Rayner in that position in the Escort. Instead, it would be the Escort of Grant Shand and James Brown taking the final podium position in the class for now and in 19th place, despite losing a little time through that last stage. No change in the rest of our positions, though, in the class. Nigel Greensall and David Hudson holding on to that second place right to the finish here at Snetterton. And that, of course, means it's the class victory for Alex Stubbs and Rhys Edwards. First place in Class D, as well as 11th place overall. In Class B, nothing would change for our Battle of the Evos. Sam Gendy and Samantha Bartlett taking that third spot with them to the finish of the rally. Wayne and Darren Labalestia were still putting on a show for the crowds. And you know what? It was still fast as well despite this, ending the event second in the class, 13th overall, and proving for once and for all that Sideways really can be fast. Before we look at the Class B winners, it's on to the top 10 overall. And moving up into those positions through the afternoon will be Alistair Stables and Neil Jones in the Chevette, rounding out the top 10. Just above them in the class and overall times were James Garner and Jordan Joins, slipping down a position in the class to take third in Class C, 9th overall. And they were overtaken on the leaderboard by class rivals Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones. A strong end to the rally for the pair, who now take second place in the class. And as promised, we're back to that Class B battle. And it will be the class victory for Steve Hill and Matthews Daniels. First in Class B, a delighted 7th place overall as well in that Evo 6. Despite their earlier setback with the penalty, it was still a good result for Patrick O'Donovan and Jack Morton, managing to get back up to 6th place overall, showing that pace that we've seen from Patrick since he arrived at Cadwell Park. Even higher in the championship fight as well, thanks to non-championship registered crews up ahead. For Sam and Francis Toozle, it was a successful day in the car, learning the ropes and getting to grips with what that car can do. Safe to say, they seemed to be getting used to it pretty quickly, finishing with an impressive 5th place overall. And Paul Moreau and Jonathan Kennedy keep up a good, steady pace at the top of our results, never really dropping back, meaning they end the day 4th place on our overall results. We're on to the podium positions then, and they were hard fought here in Norfolk. It would be 3rd place for Chris West and Steve Cox, showing that themselves and the car still had good pace. They finished just 10 seconds back from 2nd as well. Maxi is back. And in that 2nd place will be John Griffiths and Emma Morrison. Although it hadn't been an easy day, that was fair to say. A penalty for a miscalculation of the times and a very rare mistake from Emma was putting them back by a minute. But it didn't affect their position that they were finishing in anyway. There was also a small scare with the pit wall that could easily have ended their rally as well. Remarkable that they got away with it, but they did, and they got to the finish with that all-important 2nd place with their eyes on the championship at this stage in the season. But what all of that means is that it is victory for Michael Igoe and Will Atkins. Without the penalty for Griffiths and Morrison, it would still have been a 23-second win. A great end to the 5th round, a step closer to that fight for the championship as well for all of these crews as we go into the last part of the season. So before we leave you, here's a quick look at how those final overall results were decided here at Snetterton at round 5 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship.
That's all we've got time for on tonight's show. Make sure you join us on the first Friday of every month for the special stage rally show in association with the Mini Rally Challenge. And in the meantime, you can get all of your rally TV fix at specialstage.tv. We'll see you there.
Care 40 for Rateable Crest Titans.